Welcome to Nerds Geeks in the Kitchen Sink. It's the
I
podcast.
promise I won't interrupt you. So,
Okay.
oh, have you started yet? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Whoa. Okay. I think your most powerful interruption to date, I would say.
Okay,
It's
all
something
right.
you've been working on, and you're perfecting.
It's
Yeah, you're
if you're
perfecting it.
gonna do something, do it damn well.
You're right. Improve if you feel like it. That's our thing. So, hi, I'm one of your hosts, DK. That's your interrupting other host, Chris. And
Hey guys.
we're here with David Whalen, to
Hi,
talk
everybody. Hi,
about.
Dusty. Thanks for having me
Hello.
on.
Yeah, we're
Thank
so
you.
glad you're here. I want to just go right into this right away. You have what seems to be a comics empire.
That's a strong word, but I'll take it.
I
I'll
It
accept
is
that.
though, right? You're an entire like label all yourself. Like you're a
Yeah, I'm pretty
brand.
much a one-man band. Yeah,
I
yeah.
find that to be so incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Legitimately, as someone who does a lot of solo projects,
Mhm.
I do music and I'm a solo composer and I have some stuff.
Right.
But to see the amount of output that you're doing at the
Mhm.
quality that it is, how? What are you doing? What do you eat for breakfast? What is going on?
Patient wife and children is first and foremost. Very
Yeah, you
patient.
gotta.
Right.
Knowing that if we're sitting down and watching a movie, I'm also going to be storyboarding or writing or drawing or sketching or something. So they usually leave me alone with that kind of stuff and let me do it. So just really, it's using the phrase I like to use is I don't divide my time. I try to multiply it. So if there
Oh my
is
God.
something I can be doing, I'll try my hardest to do it. My like I said, my wife's pretty lenient with me. If she knows if I need to be in the car for something, she'll say you have 20 minutes, and I'll say okay, I'll be there. But for the most part, it really is just something that I love doing so much. And when I started, it's got to be a decade now, maybe a little less than a decade. I had those nervous of, could I do this? Is this something that I can do? I'm gonna fall on my face. And I'm not saying I didn't fall on my face a few times,
It's
but I
part
got
of it.
back up and I kept going. Yeah, and it's turned out really well. I could not be more proud of the my flagship title, The Offspring, and the multitude of other books that I put out over the last almost decade or so. It's been amazing.
Sure. And so you did send us one of those offsprings.
Mm.
I did read that. I didn't have. It's like that thing where you pick up a Spider-Man, 79, and you go, "What is going on? Where
Yeah.
is it?" But even so, it's yeah. There's a lot going on.
Mm.
Clearly, well thought out, well
Thank,
made.
thank
It's cool. We also got to read the what was it called? Alien Homework. Aliens.
Well, aliens do my homework.
Aliens
Yeah.
do my homework. Thank you. I'm a great host that knows what he's talking about.
All right. It's a
Uh,
long title. I tried to shorten the title, but they did. I was like, no, well, let's do my homework. That'll do it.
I think it's a good title.
Oh,
No,
thank
that's
you.
a good title.
I have a great
Um,
story behind that one too, if we have time to be able to say it out loud.
sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
So I'm
now's the
a
time.
teacher. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
a teacher
Go
during
for
the
it.
day. I teach art. I actually just went from I was taught for 13 years. I taught for a couple years in Florida in high school. Taught for 13 years in elementary school, and I just started middle school last year. And it's been an amazing change for me.
Hmm.
But I was walking through my classroom. The kids were doing the thing. We had done all the stuff, and they were just doing it. And it was a classroom of fourth graders. And for some reason, I just thought in my brain, what would I do if aliens were to attack right now? Like, what would I have to do? Where would we go?
Sure.
And I started like mapping out the windows I would take them to, and just walking around the classroom talking to the kids. And I would say by the end of the day, I had Will Aliens Do My Homework plotted out on just a little sheet of paper that I had on my desk. I'd walk by and I'd write, "Oh, that's what's going to happen next," and then tried to flesh it out from there. I
Sure.
had the one thing I love about the stories that I put out so far is there's always more there. There's always way more story to tell with these characters. So I try to like condense it down to 24 action packed or thoughtful pages or whatever word you want to use. And then knowing that there's always more with that character, more with that story, more with what I can do with them. So that was
Sure.
definitely the case. Will Ants Do My Homework, and I'm excited to see more.
The thing that struck me with that one was the dialogue, the kids' dialogue. And that now with that backstory, it makes more sense because it felt pretty real.
Yeah.
If you're a teacher, you get a kick out of it because it is exactly what teaching is. It's 2 minutes of you trying to get the information out, and then a student wants to talk about their cat.
Yeah.
And then 2 minutes of you getting information out, then the student wants to tell you who their favorite sports team is. Then that is your whole day.
Yeah.
Your whole day. Okay, we'll talk about your cat later. Right now, we've got to get this done. We'll have 5 minutes at the end of the class for you to do your thing, and you can tell me about your cat. Right now, let's do this.
Yeah.
That is your whole day.
I really did enjoy
Cats. Yes.
that. And so
if I hear another story about how their dad changed their tire on their tractor, I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. Your dad must be very handy. That's amazing. Does he teach you the tractor stuff? Great, awesome. All right, let's move on with our work.
amazing. And so just to be clear on this, like you're doing everything, right? You're writing it, you're drawing it, you're coloring it.
For the most part, I have been lucky enough to be able to bring in some people here and there that want to help. One gentleman called me up out of the blue. This was it for issues. I believe I gave you issue 12, 13, 14, or somewhere in there. But it was right after that 3-issue story arc, a guy who called me up, Chris McCauley, and he is now working with Bram Stoker's son on a Dracula series, movies, books, comics, whatever. He called me up kind of out of the blue, and he said, I really like what you're doing. What can I do to help? And I said, oh my gosh, I'm about to start a 3-issue story arc where they time travel back into the Civil War. I could really use some help on the coloring. And he goes, great, let's do it. So I started sending him pages, and he sent them back to me. And it really has been those kind of collaborations that have kind of kept me moving forward, kept me going. I know I'm not going to stop, but kept me moving forward and go, oh, people are kind of noticing what I'm doing. And to the point where they're saying, well, I want to be a part of it. And he's been a great advocate of mine to be able to even just sharing and liking and commenting on stuff online, to be able to help me get a few more eyes on the book. And I've really appreciated it. But it's those kind of collaborations that are really fun for me. And while I do most of the work myself, being able to every once in a while bring in other people has been really fun.
Sure. Oh, it's got to be.
That's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, and what a cool guy to have on your team. Oh my God. I mean,
he is the coolest guy in the world. He's the nicest guy. He's the hardest worker I've ever seen, with all the stuff he does. And when we talk, I'm just like picking his brain and picking his brain and picking his brain. He is the nicest guy.
Incredible. That's wonderful. So where can people find you and check all this stuff out?
Yeah, so links to everything I've ever done is on correcthandedcomics.com. I'm all over the social media, so Facebook and Bluesky and X and Twitter and TikTok. Twitter and X are the same thing. TikTok, and there's another one, Instagram. If you look up either Correct Handed or Correct Handed Comics or me, David Whalen, this blue hand will pop up. This one right here, that blue hand will pop up, and that'll be me, and you'll be able to see previews and backstories and links and inked pages and the process of creating all these things. I try to put as much backstory and fun stuff into social media as I can to be able to kind of get people to want to read it, which is the whole point, right?
Right.
Sure. And I think, from what I've seen here, correcthandedcomics.com, a beautiful place to go to see. It looks like everything. It looks like a ton of things. Yeah. And so please check it out. We will have all that linkage in the description. So don't worry. If you can just scroll down and click on that right now, if you want to pause this, we just go click on that. That's fine. Well, that's wonderful. So you have the ongoing, just the one ongoing right now. Is that right? The Offspring?
Yeah, I've been starting to call it a 50-issue maxi series.
Oh yeah,
because I'd always envisioned 50 issues. I just didn't want to say it out loud until I knew that it was going to get there. Sure. And for each step, I kind of had an ending. If something happened, I want to make sure that I was able to finish the story. But now with I'm working on issue 30 right now. 20 issues is completely a doable situation for me. So I really, come hell or high water, it's gonna happen. If my arms get gnawed off by a crazy raccoon, I'm gonna learn to draw with my feet. It's one of those situations. So now I'm perfectly comfortable with telling people that there'll be 50 issues. The reason that I do the one shots, and I have 2 graphic novels, 200+ page graphic novels, and then a 4-issue miniseries, is because I understand that for an indie creator, jumping on an ongoing or even something like 50 issues can be daunting because you never really know if the indie creator is going to continue forward. Some companies get 1 or 2 issues out if they're lucky in this situation. So first of all, to be able to have 29 issues in the can, I also wanted to make sure that people had a chance to be able to like check out my stuff before jumping in on the Offspring, to kind of give them an idea of my style of writing, my style of artwork, to be able to be kind of like a bridge between my one-shots or 4-issue miniseries and my graphic novels and my maxi series. So my hope is that if people pick up Will Aliens Do My Homework or Shady Lady or The Sock Hop Killer, they'll eventually go to want to pick up Latent Lightspeed or The Offspring or The Loved Ones, to be able to get a better idea of some of the other things we're creating.
Wonderful. Wow. It's really inspirational to me. Like I said, as someone who does little projects, wow. Like I've been trying to get an album out for the last year now, and it's just I've done many before, but like for whatever reason, this one, it's like, why is it? So what is happening? Yeah. It's wonderful.
I put out an album about 15 years ago and haven't been able to get another one out since. I've got a couple songs here and there to do, but I really just handed it to my family for Christmas and say, hey, check this out. And every once in a while I'll go to like my brother's house and he'll pop it in on the radio. He's like, I know this guy's got good sound. So really it's just for my family to make fun of me, I guess. So
sure. Well,
what's family for?
It works. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, as someone that's been working on his own story and stuff, how is it trying not to be your worst critic when it comes to, because I've let a few people, and even in 1 or 2 people that are in the industry, like read, they're like, this is a good start, this is good, it's like, but I go back and I look and I'm like, I don't think it's good enough, I gotta change this, and then how is it not being especially in doing everything you do, how is it not difficult in dealing with being your worst critic?
It's hard, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't look back on certain things and go, I should have done that, or, oh gosh, that stinks, or whatever it is. But really, I really do think it's just having the plan, what's that thing from, it was Captain Cold in The Flash, have a plan, execute the plan falls apart, throw away the plan. It really is that. So I know exactly for the 50 issues, I know exactly where I'm going. I know exactly what I want to do with these characters. There's a little wiggle room in there for me to be able to adjust if I wake up one day and go, oh, that's a great place to put that, new scene or whatever. But I really do think that having a plan and sticking with it, and really just trusting yourself. You said it already, you're your own worst critic. I'm my own worst critic. And I always try to remember that there will be, especially nowadays in the 21st century, the year 2025, I can't believe we're still dealing with this, but there will always be bullies and mean people to say mean things to you. And just try to, take that criticism. Don't ignore it, because maybe in there might be some like bits of constructive stuff you can take on. But I also try to remember that no one's going to love your thing as much as you love your thing. Like I try to remind myself that there are millions of people that love Star Wars, but there are also millions of people that hate Star Wars. So it doesn't, if you like your thing, keep moving forward. Yeah. Just keep moving forward. Just keep going. And before you know it, you'll have 50% of it done, 90% of it done, 100% of it done. And then, what you plan to do with that afterwards is up to you. But I really think that the hardest part is getting started. So once you start and you realize that it's not like, there are literally thousands of people like me that are doing something like I'm doing, creating their own book, making their own music, writing their own, novels, whatever it is. The only difference, I think, is that the finish, like sprinting through the finish line, because you could get 80% of it done. And then you come to a part where you're like, I don't know what to do here. And you walk away and then you never come back.
Right.
That's really easy to do sometimes. But I really do think it's just forcing yourself to sit down and forcing yourself to do it and know that it might crash and burn, but it might be brilliant. So, and even if you crash and burn, you can pick it up and try it again. Okay, that didn't work. Let me try this. And it really is that process of knowing you're going to mess up, keep moving forward. That's how I see it anyway.
Beautiful.
Great advice. Great advice.
Beautiful.
I do have another thing. Okay. With you making the 50 issue, kind of setting your parameters at 50 issues, how do you, when you're deciding how you want to separate that, how do you decide? Because, with me getting mine started, I kind of thought I had a break at like 15, 20 pages. Yeah. And then that goes, well, I need to explain a little more, or I need to add this, and it turns to 30 pages.
Yeah.
And it turns to 45 pages. It's like, okay, how do you decide story-wise where you want to kind of, I know I'm going through a lot of just probably people are like, oh, come on, just get to story stuff. But like your technical process.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be tough. With 50 issues and having a fairly loose outline of where I want to go.
Right.
Really what I try to do is I will make sure for each, whether it's sometimes I'll have 2-issue story arcs. Sometimes it'll be 3 or 4-issue story arcs. I try to hit the beats of that main story arc. And I know I can do that in 22 pages.
Okay.
So that leaves me 2 pages to be able to hit the broader story arc. Or maybe I've got 19 pages of solid story arc for story arc A. And I know I've got story arc B and C happening in the background. So I'll do something in those other 3 extra pages that will help people to remember, this character has a fear of the water. Oh, this character flies off the handle. Oh, this character is dealing with, emotional issues or whatever it is. And I'll be able to put those character moments in, those things that help push the, maybe not the main narrative of those 2 issues, but it's giving them a little bit more a nudge, a reminder of something about each character.
Okay.
So really, quite frankly, a lot of times I'll have more than the 24 pages. And to me, I think that's really good because then I can really start to cut the waste. Like where are they saying things that don't need to be said? Where are they doing things that don't need to be done? How can I give precise character traits, precise story beats, and still keep it within 24 pages? There are times like at the end of I call them seasons. At the end of a big story arc or the end of seasons, I'll maybe add 5 or 10 more pages on to make it it's an extra giant issue of The Offspring. Issue 4 was 35 pages, and I believe it was 13 was 30 pages. So it was really just because I didn't want to chintz out on the story. I wanted to make sure I had that story finish, and then to build up to the next set of, where those questions were answered. Now we have all these new questions we've got to answer. I wanted to make sure I didn't leave anybody hanging on those things. So it really is like walking the line of when do I answer these questions, and how do I introduce the new setup for what the next season, next 12, 13 issues is going to be. And it is tough. It really is tough, especially when there's going to be 50 issues. But I think that in my scenario, I've had these characters since I was 17 years old, and I'm turning 50 this year. So, and with a decade of working on them, and on and off in my 20s, between wasting time in my 20s, like a lot of us do, I was still working on and perfecting and trying to figure out where I wanted the story to go. And once I realized that the story was really mostly in between the monsters and the time travel, and the egomaniacs trying to take over the world. Right. The story is really about coping with things that's trauma in your life. The whole story for these 4 main characters is how they deal with trauma. And one thing I really wanted to kind of get out was that in most comic books, Superman has the bad guy. He punches the bad guy. In 24 pages, the bad guy is beat, and the day is saved. But with these traumas that these four main characters are going through, they may be punching the monsters, they may be fighting the bad guys, but really the monster to them is themselves. They're in their minds, they're the monster. Their trauma is what they've been dealing with, is really the monster that they're fighting through the whole series, and how to be able to, one, communicate that in a comic book, two, not make it too much of a Debbie Downer, even though there are some pretty serious things that are happening to these characters, but also move forward in a way where you know that while you can deal and cope with some of these things, it's not a monster that's going to be beat. The day is not going to be saved with these traumas. It's something that you just learn to live with and kind of try to move forward and be the best person you can be. So, and for me, the end game was always, how do I tell an entertaining story with monsters as analogies? Time travel with analogy is life. Egomaniacs as analogies for the junk you got to deal with every day, but also making compelling story with these three very different characters to show how different ways to be able to deal with that trauma. And I think I'm doing it okay. I think I'm doing it okay.
Damn.
What I've seen, I really liked it. Yeah, from the issues you gave us to be able to read. Yeah, definitely. I like the way the story's going from what we've seen, and I can't wait to see more. Going back to talking about, it's almost like editing a movie. Mm-hmm. When you were talking about cutting down, that you're going to film 2-3 hours worth of footage, but you got to get into that 130 minutes.
Yeah.
To get it down, and you want to get into to what you want to portray, and then talking about with dealing with trauma and developing those characters. That's a good way to kind of overwrite, then make it the best point you can by cutting it down to the real meat of a subject, or or an issue.
Yeah, each four of these characters have to have a very specific voice. I try to make sure they react in a way that they would react. One runs away from the thing, one stands their ground, one lashes out, and one hides. So it's really making sure that I know these characters, and I know them like they were my own, because they are. But to be able to know how these characters would react, each of them reacting differently to one thing that's happening, and that's something that they're right now, still even 29 issues into it, they're just starting to realize, like it was kind of like this hidden thing to them, like so many other people. They don't realize they're biased or how their trauma is affecting them. And just now, 29 issues into it, some of the characters are starting to go, oh, I'm handling this wrong. What can I do to move forward? And to be able to show those moments of like epiphanies for the characters, for me, has been pretty cathartic, with maybe things that I had to have epiphanies about. So it really is for me about creating characters that have problems that people can relate to in the real world. Like, nobody can really relate to Bane from Batman, unless you start to put real world consequence onto it. But it's such a fantastical, or any fantastical villain or character, whatever. But to be able to give these characters those story arcs that are not going to be solved, it's going to be dealt with, but it's not going to be solved, I think was my kind of like turning point with the series, before I even started, and going, oh, that's what I'm doing. That's the story I'm trying to get out. And once I had that, I knew I was on the right track anyway.
I'm kind of curious, what are some of your favorite comics creators, some of your favorite comic heroes or characters in general? What do you read?
I'm a big DC guy.
DC, okay.
I like DC. Superman was always the guy. I'm a big Ted Kord Blue Beetle fan, to the point where I have their big omnibuses. I like him. As far as creators go, I think that I'm pretty. I was about to say generic, but that's the wrong word. Like pretty, like a normal group of creators that kind of you looked at and you wanted to emulate. I've heard on some of my stuff Frank Miller, because I deal with a lot of like highlight and a lot of shadow. I deal with a lot of that. I don't do a lot of like hatching and cross hatching, like a Jim Lee hatching and cross hatching thing. I don't do a lot of that in it. because I know I'm going to let the colors do some of the heavy lifting on that stuff.
Mm.
So I don't do it. It's one of those little things that I've done to be able to maybe save myself a little time here and there. But I would say that probably one of my biggest influences was the man who killed Superman, Dan Jurgens.
Oh, that was a formative story for me. And I had the posters on my wall.
Yeah, it was one of the
very
first
into
times that I'd seen like artist and writer to get, as one. And this was, let's see, 92, 93, somewhere in there. Yeah, and it really did. While I always wanted to be an artist, it really got me thinking, like, I'm pretty creative. I bet I could write some stuff down too. And then as a, whatever it was, a freshman, sophomore in high school, started to write stuff down and kept going. And now here I am 40 years later, still writing stuff down.
Awesome. Yeah, that Death of Superman thing was huge for me.
Yeah.
Big time. I've talked about it before on here, but yeah, that was, I'm sure a lot of people from my generation, that was kind of the way into Superman, other than like the movie, which was always on. I loved it so much.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, cool. Well, just speaking of things that have been read recently, I have a couple things here. I don't know if anyone had seen this yet. It's pretty new. It's called The Seasons. It's an image thing.
Did you get it last trip?
Yeah, and so what it is essentially the seasons are represented as they're people, right? And there is this story going on. I don't know if you can see that. I love the style of this art. It feels very like I don't know, like 70s TV intro or something. I'm not sure exactly, but so the seasons are these people, and this is the first issue. Interesting start.
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm going to say there. But for me right now, this is like my main. I'm so into Hellhunters at this point. It's Ghost Rider, Wolverine. There's a version of Doctor Strange here, and it's like, what if they had to fight supernatural Nazis?
Oh wow!
Do you need anything else? I mean, it's unbelievable, and what's really fun is they're not doing like a complete reset on some of these characters, but some of them are new versions. Like the Sorcerer Supreme he's not exactly Doctor Strange. He looks a little like Hulk Hogan. There he is. There.
Oh yeah. Huh.
He's got this like fantasy gun thing. It's very interesting, and they're just blasting Nazis, which is wonderful. Yeah, and then Wolverine shows up, and you haven't seen his claws yet, but he's got these wicked, like, awesome knives. It's pretty good so far. So, Hellhunters for me right now at this very moment. I just got an email from the comic shop saying that my Absolute Superman #4 is out. Are you reading that?
I haven't read any of the Absolute stuff yet. I am in such a rural area in upstate New York that I'm an hour away from any comic book shop.
Oh, me
so
too.
I've got to go like every month. I've got to go and like kind of stack up. But I realized a couple weeks ago that I had like 4 or 5 trades I hadn't even read yet. So when I just haven't had a chance to be able to pick those things up. So I'm waiting for the trades on some of those Absolute. I'm very interested in the Superman stuff. How did you like it?
I can recommend for sure. This is going to sound crazy. Well, maybe not, but the Batman is my least favorite. So they did Batman, they did Wonder Woman, and they did Superman.
Yeah.
And honestly, the Wonder Woman is top tier. I wish this is what Wonder Woman always was. Oh, wow. It's so good. Shut up, Chris.
I like it. I do like it the best out of the 3.
They change her backstory, but in a way that it only changes it. I mean, it changes it a lot, but like she's still what she is, but she has a completely different upbringing. She's raised in hell by Cersei as the last Amazon. It's wonderful. Anyway, but the Superman is really interesting. My concern with the Superman at this point is like there's still so many unanswered questions that I have. So I won't be able to tell you if it's incredible or not until it's over, probably. Yeah. But so far, I'm very intrigued by it, and I am enjoying it. It's good for sure, and some of the art's just wonderful. So.
Yeah, I like that they do. I think a lot of people get frustrated with like New 52 and Absolute and all that kind of stuff and like these reboots every, 5 or 6, 10 years, whatever it is. But these characters are 75 years old. I mean, you've got to try new stuff with them or it's just going to kind of die out. Sure. So I really do like some of the chances that they've made on both sides, Marvel and DC, to be able to kind of keep these characters fresh and keep them in the eyes and to bring in new viewership. So I was talking with a friend of mine. They were talking a few days ago, and they were saying that they were frustrated that some of these characters or whatever don't look like they did when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And I said, well, bro, we're not the demographic anymore, man. We're old people. We're old people. They'll know we'll read it because we have been read it our entire lives. They're trying to get new kids in here, like other kids, 12-year-olds in here reading this stuff. And if it's the same stuff they did in the 70s, guess what? They're not going to get any new readership. So to be able to try these new things, I think is super important for those big two characters to be able to stay fresh and stay in the public eye, I think.
For sure.
No, I totally agree. And well, almost welcome to the 50+ club. I as a resigning member, I'll extend that to you.
Yeah. It hasn't been as bad as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more aching and more cracking of the bones. It's been fine.
Oh yeah. No. The mornings are iffy sometimes, you know.
Sometimes.
You sound like you're walking on bubble wrap and on that trip to the bathroom, but
yeah. I think it's worse in winter. Because it's -3 degrees outside.
I was going to say, with you in upper New York, I'm sure it's probably hell on wheels up there.
It has its moments, definitely.
Right. No, and I totally agree with, as someone that grew up with the, even going to Jack Kirby and then Claremont and Burns and, some of the new stuff I've really been interested in, as long as it's not Tom King writing it. I don't care. I'll throw that out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I totally agree. Try something new with these characters that have been around for, we're especially some of the DC legacy, 75 years plus.
You really don't think Hell Princess Diana is cooler? She's so cool.
She is a completely different Diana than what you can have and still have that backstory.
I think she still feels feels so pure, and she feels so perfectly Wonder Woman to me.
I don't agree with that. There's a sense of almost nobility and wrinkleness with Wonder Woman that you don't have with some of the other, especially legacy characters. That I think doing some of the stuff they've done in the Ultimate, which, like I said, I think the absolute Wonder Woman is the best out of the three. But the essence of the character itself, I think you can do all kinds of changes you want, but I think with any character, the actual essence of the character should stay the same.
Yeah.
But you can go in that within that. Personally, I think you can go any direction. Yeah. But I think a person's essence is their essence. I mean, that's when someone's just basically stripped down to the bare bones, that's always who they're going to be. How they deal with things can be different throughout time, but the essence of a person or a character, I think, should stay the same no matter where you go.
Steve Trevor, still a nerd. Get out of here.
But he's a pilot, so he's damn cool.
He thinks. So beyond comics, we did mention this briefly before we started, but I did see the movie Companion, which I feel pretty good about. My only issue is there's like a kind of a fairly large twist. And if you guys if you don't know the twist, I will not say it here.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's given in the trailer, which I think was a major bummer.
I've heard that on.
It's too bad because it's a really interesting little movie, and it is a little movie, but it's like it's kind of punching above its weight as far as like some of the stuff that they're exploring, I think. And I really liked. Well, first of all, it's got Jack Quaid, who is excellent.
Right.
He's been fun to watch these last few years. Like he's like popping up at everything now. He's really good. And then the main star is this. Is it Sophie Thatcher?
Yeah.
I don't know her from anything else. Well, actually, I'm lying to you because I'm just clicking on it. I didn't realize she was in Maxine, which I loved. She was in Heretic, which I really liked. She was in Boogeyman, which, but yeah, so she was great. But anyway, it's this like small story. It's this emotional story, but it happens to deal with something a little insane.
Right.
It's crazy. And if you haven't had it ruined, it's a fun. I mean, I guess it's a horror movie. It's not like a creature movie or anything like that, but if you can go in not knowing anything, that would be ideal. I thought it was just a fun movie. It was
Right.
a fun time for sure. So
Is this streaming somewhere?
it's in theaters currently.
Oh, it's in theaters right now. Oh boy.
Yep. Right now.
Okay.
Um, as far as other movies, I rewatched My Bloody Valentine, like the original. I mean, but it's February, so of
Right.
course I did.
Yeah.
So is Captain America, whatever they call it, after 5 different rewrites of the titles, going to be the new Valentine's Day movie since it comes
It
out?
certainly is for me, Chris. It certainly is for me.
And Hulk.
I want to see. Yeah, he's red for love. It's passion. He's the passion Hulk.
Right.
Everyone knows that.
I just want to see him once as the Hulk go, get off my damn plane.
He probably will.
Nice. I didn't kill my wife.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. That's some of the best gifts. I love.
Right.
I love that. I love the movie too. The GIF is good, but the movie pretty good.
I think weekly, my wife and I look at each other and go, "I don't care."
I don't care. Yeah.
Guy did a Peter Pan right off the.
Also, I loved, and I'm sure it doesn't hold up, but when I was younger, I loved the Leslie Nielsen parody of that. It's called Wrongfully Accused.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a good
I am
one.
such a Leslie Nielsen guy. Oh man.
Have you ever seen him before he started like the airplane stuff? He was a pretty heavy like drama actor, bad guy in a lot of westerns and stuff. So cool to see him. And like I'm trying to think of, he did a bunch of episodes of Bonanza, I believe.
Oh no,
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
but he did really.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's one of those. Maybe it was Wild Wild West. It was one of those, but he did. I would bet that he probably had some parts in all of those.
Right.
But he was a pretty heavy like drama actor before he did Airplane.
For sure. Yeah, that's why it works.
Yeah, to see him come back and do like such deadpan comedy and Naked Gun and all that stuff. Oh man, hilarious.
Yeah, to him it is not comedy.
Right.
Yeah.
She's delivering these lines.
Well, that's why I'm almost curious how Liam Neeson is going to do because they're supposed to reboot.
I could just not have that. I'd be fine if that didn't exist.
Yeah. Make something else funny. Make something else that's
funny. Right.
Yeah.
I
mean, maybe if it was like 100 years old and you went back.
Naked Gun, the new caliber.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't want him to be Frank Drebin. I think that's what it is. Yeah. That's really my problem.
Yeah. I heard somebody the other day say something about like all these remakes and stuff, and the studios are just trying to make sure they make money so they can stay afloat on. But somebody said, and I heard this a few months ago, maybe somebody said, "Why don't you redo movies that didn't do well? Why don't you go back and like reshuffle or retool these movies that you thought had good premises or did have good premises, but for some reason didn't fly? Sure. Like remake those." Into what they could have been or should have been. Stop making movies that worked. They worked because they worked.
Right.
So you don't need to remake them. They did it. You don't need to remake Naked Gun.
No.
You did.
No. Yeah. We really don't need to.
Okay. With that question, what would be the movie you would remake?
Oh boy.
Under that guise.
Yeah. Oh gosh. That's a good question. I don't know if I've ever given it that much. Or I probably did have some that I thought. I got it. You might disagree with this, but Howard the Duck, like that, I loved Howard the Duck, the movie,
right? And
clearly they're building up to something in Guardians of the Galaxy. Right. So make something that is still like very like grounded. It can have all the the sci-fi stuff to it, of course, but make something grounded that's like a sci-fi comedy with Howard the Duck. I think that'd be great. Leah Thompson could be the bad guy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Oh, you know what she could be? She could be the bad guy. Like, remember in Silverhawks, the one guy that had a guitar that had lasers at it?
Yeah, oh my God.
Her weapon could be a guitar with the lasers out of it. Oh, I think we've just written the story.
Yes.
Disney, call us. We'll do it.
Wow.
So right
now. I want a live action Silverhawks.
Oh, amazing.
I mean, we had some of the best cartoons. I don't care, hands down, in our era. Silverhawks, what was it? Thundercats,
He-Man, Voltron,
right?
Transformers, G.I. Joe. You're hitting my wheelhouse now, man.
Galaxy Rangers, Bionic Six. I can go on and on.
Mask.
Yes, Mask. Absolutely
amazing.
Yes.
Micronauts.
Absolutely.
I think you could even go earlier. I think the precursors to those, and I would love to see a reboot of these characters, is the Hanna-Barbera superhero line, Space Ghost, Herculoids,
Oh boy,
Blue Falcon,
I love
Absolutely.
these.
Thundar the Barbarian.
I love
To be
these.
able to bring these guys back into their own universe would
Oh,
be.
that would be
I
amazing.
would take all my money.
There is currently
All of
Space Ghost happening in comics.
There is a Space Ghost comic book. I have not picked it up. I've
haven't
heard good
either.
things. The art looks really good.
I've seen it on the
Right.
shelf. Although it's so hard
Yeah.
for me to separate. I love the
Ghost
the
to
Adult
Ghost.
Swim. I
Oh,
love
man.
the Adult
Good
Swim. You know,
It's good stuff. Yeah, to be able to bring back those, whoever has the right to those characters, bring it back, update them a little bit. They did a little bit of Blue Falcon with Scooby Doo recently,
Mhm.
and Dynamite, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
They had him with Scooby Doo, and it was fun and it looked good. But Blue Falcon is badass. You need to get him doing badass stuff, man. I
He
mean,
was definitely the Hanna-Barbera Batman.
oh yeah, I 100% agree. And be able to do some of those, Thunder the Barbarian would be again, take all my money.
I'm just
I'm
happy
down.
that I got to hear Herculoids on this episode today.
Oh, yeah, Hercules is
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Gleep and Glop, wasn't that the name of
Yeah,
the
dude.
little
Yep.
Gleep
They're
and
just
Glop?
blobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. You need a bridge? Call Gleep and Glop. You need a tent? Call Gleep and Glop.
They got it.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Wonderful.
And who doesn't want a ceratops, whatever you want to call it, the unicorn dinosaur that shoots mini meteors.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm trying to remember that thing's name. It was something they called him the Tank. Something
right,
the Tank. I can't remember. But yeah, great characters, great stories. Bring those Hanna-Barbera superheroes back.
Oh yeah.
Love it.
Okay, DK, what would be your one property that you would come back for wanting a reboot of?
This is so hard
It
for
could be
me.
a single movie. It could be a franchise that didn't work.
What? So I'm just having trouble. What if I have a different angle on this? Because so what if it's no?
There's
I can't.
no wrong answer.
I can't go that way either. No, hold on. I can't go that way either.
Just say it. Just do
No,
it.
I shouldn't. I shan't.
Just say it.
This is very hard, Chris. You can't put me on the spot. I need like 4 hours to think about this, and then some more coffee, and then 4 more hours.
That's too much prep time.
The problem is, here's the real problem for me. I love bad movies. I grew up with Mystery Science Theater.
Right.
I watch, as people who listen to this show know, I seek out these bad movies on purpose, and I watch them. I mean, I got the Subspecies box set right here.
Right.
Subspecies. You guys, this is what I'm dealing with.
I get it.
So I don't know. I love bad movies.
It's not necessarily a bad movie, but something you thought could have gone a lot further, but the first attempt at it kind of failed or just fizzled out.
Maybe the execution, maybe the premise was solid, but the execution for whatever reason, maybe they didn't have enough money, maybe they hired the wrong actor or director, maybe it was the wrong studio.
Sure. I don't know. I don't know if I can give you an answer. Truly. I just don't know if I have one. Movies are beloved to me. And I can't remember the last time. Okay, the first time I went to the theater and was really disappointed by a movie, I think was maybe Daredevil.
Okay.
That's the first time I think I was like super disappointed by a movie.
Right.
But I mean, we've already got that back, so I don't know. That's just the first one that comes to mind. But it would have been Daredevil, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I can remember the first movie I walked out of. Really, the only movie I've ever walked out on. Because I haven't seen it since, probably just because I'm biased now that I think it's horrible. Was Keanu Reeves in Johnny Mnemonic?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'd never seen it after that. For some reason, 20 minutes or a half hour into it, I'm like, what is happening? This is horrible.
I like that movie.
Maybe it's really good. Maybe I should go back and watch it again. It might be one of the greatest movie ever made, and I just didn't give it a chance for whatever reason.
I'm not going to tell you that it's incredible, no, but it is a fun watch, and it has and people. I couldn't let this go. A great pinball machine as well.
Oh yeah,
they did a tie-in pinball machine, and I'm a huge pinhead. Everyone knows that. And boy,
while we're sitting here talking about Johnny Mnemonic, I just remembered one that maybe fell flat a little bit. Lawnmower Man. Remember Lawnmower Man?
It's a sacred film. What are you talking about? It's a perfect movie. What are you saying?
Perfect might be a strong word.
Yeah, that may be a stretch.
Yeah, but I know I remember enjoying that movie, but also remembering going, maybe they could have given that another gloss over.
I do think the hype for that
so different than that movie.
Yeah.
I remember the hype being crazy, and then the what you get isn't exactly what
Yeah,
it could have been or what you thought. That's a good
sure.
choice. Let's say it's Lawnmower Man.
That's it. Okay, that's the one you're choosing.
Right.
Let's say it's Lawnmower Man. Although it's blasphemous for me to say that because that movie is incredible.
You know, the second we stop recording, all three of us are going to have like a dozen movies.
Yeah,
We're like,
absolutely.
that one, that one, and that one, that one, that one.
For sure.
And I'm sure people are watching this screaming at us. They need to remake this. They need to remake that.
Oh yeah.
Well, a movie that didn't do well when it first came out. I don't know. John Carpenter's The Thing. Let's remake it.
Nothing.
No, it's perfect.
Oh, wait.
It didn't do well, but it's like audiences didn't get it, or I don't know, the studio didn't. I don't know what happened.
Well,
But it's like
I think that's one of the times where like maybe it was a little too surreal, not surreal, maybe a little bit too like incognito with what was happening. You know what I mean? Like it was maybe a little bit too submersive with its like plot points, like the ending. You know, and now, you know, what is it, 30 years later, you know, you go on YouTube and you have the ending explained to you. The back then people were like, wait, where's the thing? How does it end? You know, so maybe that could be, he was just a little bit ahead of his time with storytelling there.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say, but like that's just another example of why I don't know if I have a good answer for this because like that movie was like not liked at the beginning and then now it's like one of the best ever. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know,
and it's all subjective, isn't it? It's all subjective,
right?
For sure.
I know the one movie that I've said several times, and it wasn't a huge hit, but now it has a huge cult following. But I would love to see it done with better modern special effects. The Last Starfighter.
Oh
sure.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that needs it. I think you're right on the on the money there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
Story wise, you wouldn't have to like quote unquote update it too much, but I mean, just the special effects and you know, get the new actors, and you wouldn't even have to really, you know, do too much to it itself.
Yeah,
I think just a little bit of tweaks to it, and it probably wouldn't be a lot bigger than what it ended up being.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's one of those ones that's right in the middle of. It's got a cult following, but it's not so sacred that you're gonna get too much of an uproar. I bet people who have a cult following to be like, yes, let's go see this guy. Let's go see this thing.
I can't believe I'm being noticed. Yeah, exactly. Well, here's a good time for us to probably go over into Star Wars territory. And I know we recently all finished Skeleton Crew.
Right.
So I'd like to just do a brief. I didn't hear you, Chris.
I said some of us more recent than others.
Well, calm down. So let's do a brief discussion on Skeleton Crew. It's the Disney Plus series. What was it? 8 episodes?
I think so.
Right. I'll just go right off the bat and say I enjoyed it. And I would say it's been long enough. Let's have a full spoiler discussion here.
Oh yeah.
So if you haven't finished it, you're warned. But there were a couple moments where I thought I could see it going this direction, I could see it going that direction, but instead I feel, made the decision to probably keep it more in line with the original idea and the heart of it. Instead of like at the end, oh, the distress signal goes out, and then who comes to save them? It's Boba Fett. Oh my God, it doesn't happen. None of that stuff. There is no. You don't need to have even seen other Star Wars things to fully understand what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're not. There's no big cameo. There's no big. I mean, is there even a lot of fan service? I would say no.
There's some.
Not a lot.
If you know some of the EU stuff and some of the names, you know, but you have to be pretty well versed.
I would say it's the
Star Wars.
If there's any,
it's very veiled. You know, kind of very like niche.
Yeah. I wouldn't. You know, it's not like they're talking about Darth Vader in this or whatever.
No.
None of that stuff is happening.
It's very the little amount of fan service that's in it is very diehard Star Wars, consuming everything. You know, out some stories, and that would get a few of the really vague references.
Sure. Yeah. But I thought, you know, they're doing. It seems like the pitch was, what if Goonies Star Wars, you know, and they delivered that, and I just think it really worked. You know, I got to know these little characters and these little kids, and by the way, great acting from all of them, even the elephant guy, the Elephant Man himself. He did great. Yeah, it's a fun little show. Look, it is a return to Star Wars being an adventure and just plain fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I think that people forget that also they're like, we don't want little kids in Star, whoever the naysayers are, whatever they're saying. And I didn't hear too much negative about this.
No.
But Luke was like 16 years old. So, when he first started, so he was only 3 or 4 years older than these kids that they have in there. So to say that shouldn't be kids running around the galaxy, Luke wasn't that much older.
Sure.
Than what these kids are now. So to be able to do like a Goonies, or I was thinking kind of like a Stranger Thing situation where they have,
and that is what they were thinking.
Yeah, I think it's a good call for them to do a series like this and to be able to throw in those little things like, oh, I'm a Jedi, oh, he's not a Jedi, and then have the lightsabers there, but not really have anybody that's able to use it in any real way.
Right.
I thought was really fun. I would say that for my money, Skeleton Crew was probably the best Star Wars series since Mandalorian, since the first season of Mandalorian. And I've enjoyed all the seasons of Mandalorian, but I think that it was one of the best. Something I've noticed also, and you guys tell me if you noticed this also. In a lot of these series, there was a problem with it in Game of Thrones. There's a problem with it that I saw in Mandalorian and in Boba Fett, to where they are blackening out the scene so much that you can't see what's going on.
Yeah.
I saw that a few times. I've seen that a few times in a few different things, but I thought that this was, while it did have darker themes to it, and there was darkness in the room, of course, in some cases, you could really always tell what was going. Like, it was the lighting and the placement and the camera angles and the everything, I thought was done really, really well to be able to tell the story successfully. And to me, that's something that I, as a 50-year-old man, kind of look at, as someone who's creating something also. So to be able to not have those kind of complaints in a whole eight episode story arc, for me was kind of new in the last couple of years. So
sure.
So that was fun.
Absolutely. I would only put Andor in there. I can't forget about Andor because I personally really love Rogue One, and I think Andor is just wonderful. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I would agree that probably Mando season 1 is the gold standard here. But as far as the look, it's got to be the best looking one, right? I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think this show was probably, except for maybe Mandalorian season 1, is the best actual Star Wars looking show.
Yeah,
I mean, you had the what we call gear porn. Because you've got the ships and you've got the vehicles that don't look like, rip-off Power Ranger scooters.
Don't even talk about it. That was awful.
I mean, and your scenery inside and out didn't look like, a fifth grade play like The Acolyte did at times.
Yeah.
This was, I think they took the most care. And because it actually had the kids, they're trying to, this is a story for the younger, preteens to bring them into Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had no complaints about it. The acting was good. The scenes were great,
Yeah.
And then even some of the payoffs actually worked. You don't necessarily, to have a good Star Wars story, you don't have to have all the Star Wars characters that we know.
I hope they'll learn that lesson.
I hope so too.
I agree. I think one thing that they did really well also was they showed us kind of another corner of the universe, like suburbia. I'm walking in, I'm like, this could be just Los Angeles. This could be just a suburban area in Los Angeles.
Right.
And then you'd start to see the sci-fi elements kind of poke up and do all this thing, which I thought was really well. It was kind of like a subtle, this is everywhere, anywhere USA.
Right.
And then being able to slide in that sci-fi stuff. I think that was done really well, because it could have kind of backfired where they're like, I don't want to see, my yard, my street corner in Star Wars.
Yep.
I think that they did it in a way that kind of, again, grounded it really well in reality, and then spaceships blasting off.
Right.
Loved
The
it.
first thing I said when you start to see those shots, I'm like, oh, this is the neighborhood from Poltergeist. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it. I know where
Yeah,
we are.
yeah. That's what I wrote in my brain too. Yeah.
Exactly. No, that's a good point. Although I think I did feel that a little bit with that. I was like, don't make it too much like Earth. Come on, let's not. But they didn't really focus on that. And I understand you need some of that groundwork for some of the other stuff to make sense. That's all fine. They didn't linger on it, and I was fine with it. But yeah, being able to go to these new places and these new characters and all that stuff. As someone who grew up with the expanded universe,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need a Luke Skywalker or a Darth Vader in every story. And in fact, you often didn't get them in those stories.
No.
So, to be able to see some true expanded universe style things here, I really liked for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's worth watching.
I would totally agree. It helped that I have a 12-year-old who, kind of cared a little bit. We watched it together and we had fun. So that did help me. I don't know if I would have been as in love with it if it wasn't like a family thing with me, but still, I can't complain about it whatsoever. I mean, it is certainly a step up from the last thing we got, and hopefully this level of quality is what we have going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and I'm glad they added, I don't know if anybody else, some of the nostalgia of like the story, kind of the story types that we were getting, like 80s, 90s. This actually reminded me not as much, I mean, a little bit of like the Goonies or Stranger Things, but who remembers the Explorers?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
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 A lot of a couple of real famous older actors now as kids
Mm-hmm.
in a makeshift spaceship that goes off, those kind of things. Just fun stories that we can have set roughly in a universe that we know.
Yeah.
And just tell good stories.
Yeah.
Simply, I mean, that's you'll get people to watch. You'll get people eventually. I think right now, like a company like Lucasfilm is gonna have to do 5 or 6 good things in a row to really get that whole audience back.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. There are some that I have, like you mentioned, Acolytes. I haven't watched that one yet. I haven't watched what was the Andor. I haven't watched Andor yet.
Okay,
It
you got
just,
it. I think I think you should. I really do. You like Rogue One?
Yeah, I liked Rogue One. Yeah,
I think Andor is a must.
Okay. You've talked to me, and I'll probably start watching here in a little bit. It's 8 episode season like the other ones have.
I think it's something like that. Yeah, it's not much longer, if anything.
It's 6 or 8.
It's 6 or 8. But yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is the more adult Star Wars, which I do not mind at all. I really like that, and it's about the other side of the Rebel Alliance, basically. And
for me, it was a little slow paced, and
I can't say that you're wrong. Yeah, the pace is different. The pace is definitely, it's more of a slow burn thing, and for some people, I think that's a valid complaint. Yeah. But personally, for me, boy, I just thought it paid off.
I mean, between, Star Wars, I'm never going to call it A New Hope because it was Star Wars when I saw it.
Stand on your ground.
And Acolyte, Andor somewhere in between, in my opinion.
I think it's in the top third. If we're going to get that, do this. We don't have to.
No.
Wow.
We've done it many times. We don't need
to disagree. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I think it's worth checking out, though. I don't think, and a lot of
I would say check it out, but like a lot of one of my favorites, but I'm not going to hate on it too much.
Andor is a lot of it is shot on location, outdoors in the woods and stuff. So it does have a good look to it. You don't get as much of this weirdo CG stuff. Yeah. So that helps.
Can I mold some of these conversations together here? So we were talking about movies that we would do over if we had. So the prequel series, I'm sure you guys know this. Most of the nerds and geeks like us know this at this point. But the original plan was that Jar Jar Binks was a Sith Lord, and he was the main bad guy. He got such a negative response from everybody that watched it that Lucas kind of threw that idea away. And I wish that he would have, like we talked about earlier, I wish if he would have trusted his process, because you can see there's multiple, online videos about it, but you can see how they're laying the groundwork for Jar Jar Binks to be the bad guy in episode 1. And then by the time episode 2, his role in episode 3 gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And they, made up these new characters that kind of got thrown in. And it seems a little mishmash at times for me. But I think if he would have gone with his original idea, I think that Jar Jar Binks would probably go down as one of the greatest Sith Lords that ever lived. And I think that the original trilogy would look, it's starting to get more ground now. People are starting to get it a little bit more.
Right.
But I think that it would have exploded if they would have shown that Jar Jar Binks was that like kind of like doofus in disguise. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. Kind of like they did with, Yoda, where he was like, running around to the first, and he's like, I'm not really an idiot. It's just I'm trying to see if you're an idiot before I let you know. Or I'm trying to hide who I am so that I can, get what I need to get out of whatever. But I think if they would have done that, I think that it would have been an amazing story and an amazing opportunity to be able to show like that characterization that we talked about, like flipping it on its head. So I would love to see a director's cut of George Lucas go back and say this was the original plan, and have Jar Jar be the bad guy. I'd love to. I if I was a studio, I'd give them $100 million to go back and redo that original trilogy with Jar Jar as the bad guy.
I've heard this as a discussion in a meme, but I have not ever heard that it was really this.
Yeah.
Go online. They show you like all the little clues and all the little things that they do. It's Jar Jar Binks is a Sith Lord.
Yeah, I've heard this theory.
Through,
I thought it was just a fan theory.
No, yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know if George Lucas has ever said. I think the guy who played Jar Jar, after all the stuff started coming out, said it's nice to see like what it could have been. People starting to realize what it could have been,
Right.
And then it just got ruined because of fan negativity or fan backlash or whatever word you want to use.
Ahmed Best, by the way, we like Ahmed.
I don't know if George Lucas has ever said that was the plan, but it's clear to me that Jar Jar was gonna be the bad guy, and if he would have stuck with that plan, if he would have trusted himself, gosh, Star Wars would be completely different now.
I have heard that Jar Jar was originally going to possibly be played by Michael Jackson.
Oh, I don't know if I heard that.
I think that's confirmed, and then he went a different way, and it was Ahmed Best, and he introduced him. This is a story I've heard from Ahmed Best, where he introduced him to Michael Jackson, and it was like this standoff with Michael Jackson because he wanted to be Jar Jar.
Really, that's funny. Huh?
It's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. After Captain EO, want to dip his foot into bigger sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I miss Captain EO at Epcot.
Yes,
I miss it.
That and what was it? The Journey of Imagination.
Yeah, with Figment. I think they still have it, but it's like a low. Like they've changed it enough. Tried to update it.
I don't know if it's been forever. We usually just do drinking around the country. So
I still have teenagers, so we don't do the drinking around the countries yet. But we just went back in August, and they had Figment, they had Journey to Imagination, they have most of the stuff there. We had never. Quick little story about Epcot for fun. We'd gone 1, 2, 3 times before we went last August with our kids who are now teenage. My son is in college now, and we had never gotten to the World Showcase. We'd gotten to Canada. We'd gotten to, I think, maybe Japan, but we never made it all the way around the showcase because they wanted to go back to see Nemo and the fish and the land and all that Soarin'. So after the 4th time we went, this is the last time we just went in August, we finally went around the World Showcase. And we're going all the things. We're trying to find, doing all the videos to try to find all the like little nooks and crannies and the fun and the this and that. So we're spending a whole day doing this thing. And we finally get all the way around to Canada. And I go, there it was, guys. What do you think? The World Showcase. And they're like, meh.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So it was worth the wait, then is what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. So my parents took me to the Grand Canyon when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And we had a hotel room that was, very near the canyon itself. And then we went to look at it, and I was like, I think I said, like, cool, it's a hole in the ground. What did we come here for? I want to play Game Boy.
Yeah.
I'll be in the hotel if you need me. Kids are
And then
dumb.
you look back. As parents, you look back, and 20 years later, they're gonna say that trip to Grand Canyon was amazing. Thank you for bringing it to me. When they're having kids puking on them and stuff, like, how did you do it, Mom and Dad?
Yeah,
Well,
I'm dealing with it now. Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
So how is being a college parent?
It's pretty good.
My youngest is a freshman this year, so
Yeah. He, my son actually did. I'm going to brag a little bit because my son is awesome. He did up here. I don't think they offer it much where I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and I don't think they offered this, or maybe I was too dumb to even know it existed. But my son actually was able to do college courses in high school, so he had most of his first year done of college before he graduated high school. Isn't that amazing that they offer that?
Yeah.
So when he's going to a private school here in upstate New York near Albany, Siena College.
Okay.
And he had the jitters, he had the butterflies and everything, but he's doing a great job. He does broadcasting, and he's been working the boards for a lot of the sports programs. And we flipped on ESPN Plus the other day, and he's on TV doing the boards for sports for ESPN Plus. So yeah, he's doing well. It was a little less jarring for my wife and I. We thought it was going to be. We thought we were going to have anxiety for him being there. But we talk to him almost every day, and he's doing a really good job. His campus is very secure and safe, and there's a lot of stuff going on for him to be able to do, and he's made a great group of friends. So we, quite frankly, it could have been a lot worse. There could have been more tears and more frightenedness, but he is thriving, and it's been amazing to watch. So it's you want your kids to do better than you did. So he's definitely I won't tell him this yet, but he's approaching smarter than me. So
but he'll always only be approaching
it. I've still got the psychological edge, so he doesn't know that yet. So when Jeopardy comes, when Trivial Pursuit comes, I'm still going to give him the look.
Right.
I'll still eventually win, but for a few more years anyway.
Yeah, there's 10 years between my oldest and my youngest. So my oldest has been in his career for a long time, and he went to a smaller college in northern Missouri. And then my daughter is actually in communications and wants to do sports management. And she's doing stuff, and she was able to take college credits, and she's literally, I think, 3 credit hours away from being a sophomore as a freshman.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
So it was the first couple of weeks were but now she's found her friend group, found working. She does Mizzou because she goes to Mizzou, so she does some of the stuff with sports, and she's actually doing stuff in a music theater and volunteering a bunch. So she cheers on top of it. So
keeping herself busy.
Yeah. So it's a lot, and she even says herself, and that's one thing with kids. It's you see them grow, and the experiences they've had, and like the stuff you like, then they go on their own, and they're those actual.
When will my daughter start to like the things I like? When will that be?
After she's gone and has a family of her own.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, well, I made the joke growing up that I'm gonna kind of indoctrinate if they have kids as they grow older, that I'm gonna indoctrinate them into superheroes, because I had the only 2 kids on the planet that hated superheroes. And I'm like, oh, let's watch Super Friends. Let's watch this. What's I like, Dad? We're not watching that stupid stuff. I think my daughter actually said that to me once. I'm not watching that stupid stuff.
Yeah,
I'm dealing with that.
Okay. So what they don't know is I'm going to 100% show my grandkids that stuff, and I'm gonna buy them all the action figures.
All right, guys. Well, anything else before we wrap up here today?
No, just Chris? Go ahead and plug your stuff, David. Let everybody know where to find you again, and we'll have everything links in our in our show description and all of our social media. So go
That'd be
ahead.
awesome, guys. Yeah, issue 29 of our 50 issue maxi series, The Offspring, came out in January. I also published volume 7, collecting 4 issues, 26, 27, 28, 29. That story arc is up and running, and you can find links to that on my website, correcthandedcomics.com. I have my 100 plus page graphic novel, Latent Lightspeed, which is spaceships and aliens and cool stuff, is also available. My first graphic novel, The Loved Ones, which is the children of classic movie monsters who hunt their parents, is also up and running, correcthandedcomics.com. Any of my 24-page one-shots, Will Aliens Do My Homework, Shady Lady, I Won't Stop, and The Sock Hop Killer, and a few more in there, correcthandedcomics.com. And my 4-issue miniseries, Evolution Utero, which is about the worst girl and the worst woman in the world, selfish, egotistical, doesn't care about anybody but herself, getting impregnated with a superhero fetus. So that's my 4-issue miniseries that is on correcthandedcomics.com. I'm actually working on my second novel right now, which has been really fun. It's kind of like based off a Christmas Carol, but I don't want to say that too much because it's not really like a Christmas Carol. But it's my second full-length novel that I'm working on. My first one is a Western. So if you like spaghetti Westerns, you'll like this. It's called The Last Ride to Tyburn. And you can find links to that also on Correct Handed Comics, correcthandedcomics.com. Don't get left out.
Wonderful. Well, David, thanks for your time. Thanks for being here. We
Thank
really
you guys for
appreciate
having me. I
it.
really
It's been a
appreciate it.
wonderful chat. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Chris, anything else from you?
No, not really for me. So I guess we'll just see everybody at the same bad time, same bad channel.
That's right. Get in the Discord, follow us. You know where to do. You know what to do. All right. That's it. Thanks, everyone.